I am going to.
Hello, my friends. My name is Samuel Savy, and this week on the show, Montreal climbs to second in the East by beating Houston away for the first time in its history. Renard and Cremanzidis had a lot to say when they took to the media this week, and Forge FC striker Woobens Pacius subs by for an interview. All of that and a lot more in episode 95 of The Ball is Wrong. Yeah, so guys, the Woobens Pacius interview will be at the end of part one, so roughly in an hour, give or take. So hang on, we have a lot to talk about before that. I'm joined, as usual, by my friends Yves Paul and Hady Raphael. How is everyone today?
Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. Thank you. Hady, you good? You look happy, Hady, man. You look in a good mood. What's up?
No, it's just that I was able to manage the introduction
You got it
altogether
this time.
for the first time in the last 3 weeks, so I'm happy.
Oh man, hey guys, we have a huge show, so let's just jump right into it because there's a lot to say, man. We'll start with the Houston review. Houston not having a great season, but for a game against an opponent ranked so low in the standings, we didn't hear any of that classic trap game narrative. Probably because people were worried that Montreal have never won in their history away against the Dynamo. Problem for the Houston side, though, was that they were on a dismal run of form. Since their home win against Chicago on the 25th of June, they had a record of 1 win, 1 draw, 6 losses, including a 6-0 defeat away to Philadelphia. Montreal, on our behalf, doing very well since imploding at home against Kansas City back at the start of July. We are undefeated and 5 at the moment of starting that game. Wolf and Nassi would have to be shuffling a bit, though, because Joel Waterman was suspended and Victor Wanyama had been showing a lot of signs of fatigue in the last month. So Nassi went with Pantemis in goal, from right to left in defense, Johnston, Corbo, Camacho, Miller, and Lapalainen in midfield, Piet Chouanière and Kone, and Mihailovic, and up front, Romel Kyoto. Zoran Basson was back in the 20. There was no place for George Akwizera, Sunusi Ibrahim, or new acquisition Chinonso Ofor. Yves, fans were obviously expecting changes, but did you expect so many in midfield?
I think we've been saying for a little while now that Victor Wanyama needs to not start a match. I think in an ideal world, probably would have liked to have maybe saved him the trip, but definitely more than time for him to take a spell on the bench to rest up and get over some of that fatigue like we've talked about in recent weeks. But other than that, I was really surprised to see both Mathieu Chouanière and Ismaël Kone occupying midfield roles. Obviously, like Chouanière was a little further back, like closer to Piet, and then Kone was kind of paired up, if you will, with Georgi Mihailovic, and kind of playing, I think, maybe a little bit more of like a free roaming role. And that surprised me because we've seen, a few efforts of that and hadn't necessarily seen the rewards of it, but obviously maybe against an opponent that would expose themselves because they were the home team and wanted to play their style. I could see maybe why Wilfred Nancy would have thought that might have been another chance to try it.
Yeah, for sure. And, Eddie, when I was giving the lineup out, you kind of shook your head when I was saying that Mihailovic was more in midfield. How did you see it play out tactically before the game and versus how it actually played out during the game? Did you expect this to be exactly how it was?
No, it's just that I was happy that you said that because everybody thought that we were back to the 3-5-2 with two men up front,
No, we were four.
That wasn't the case. We were playing at 3-4-3 like we used to do at the beginning of the season when Mihailovic was really good, right? And we saw that, and we're going to talk about that. I'm pretty sure during the episode altogether. But we played with that 3-4-3 with Kone playing a more offensive role and Mihailovic playing the offensive role, and with one man up front with Romel Kyoto. And it's interesting that Nancy is able to shuffle things around. I like that because it gives you that extra flexibility tactically, and you're able to maybe surprise your opponent sometimes. Did it work yesterday? We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not really
that's what I was going to
sure.
say. I was like, able to shuffle things around would technically mean it's super successful.
Well, it wasn't necessarily, but I get what you mean, Hady, in the sense that we've been praying like almost on our knees for more tactical flexibility at
Yeah.
the start of the year. We didn't necessarily see it. First glimpse of it came against Vancouver when we kind of played a back four, and it was like, what's going
Yeah,
on? But now we're seeing a lot more from Wilfried Nancy,
exactly.
and it's reassuring a bit, right?
Exactly, because before we're like, we know exactly what Wilfried Nancy is going to do. We know exactly how, the tactical system that he's going to choose. And right now, you're not really sure. When you're the opponent, you're not really sure how to prepare yourself. Are
You
you
can
preparing yourself for the
prob-
3-5-2? Or are you preparing yourself for the 3-4-3?
You're
You're not
definitely
really sure.
preparing yourself for a back three, though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but
that's
that's
canned in.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's not a problem because again, the
Not
back
anymore.
three we talked about it last week when Kamal Miller offensively was playing more like a midfielder more than
Yeah.
a defender, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
so even if it's a back three, but during play, it's not really a back three.
Yeah, and for the first time in a while, I'd say it didn't get out to a great start. Montreal in the 11th minute off a free kick deep in their own half. Houston organized quickly, and Hector Herrera sent a fabulous ball through to Sebastian Ferreira, and he beat Rudy Camacho on the one-on-one and put a great shot past James Pantemis. Obviously, it was a very nice goal by Houston, but it exposed some problems that we've been talking for a while, and immediately friend of the show, G Sharp, hit us up with a message, and he said, at TBR Montreal, both goals given from quick counterattacks. No, this is
This is
That's
the
the
previous
second.
one. This is the
yeah,
first one.
this is his tweet last week that he sent us. So way past midway through the season, we're still giving up the same type of goals, which is counterattack, quick breaks. Back three cannot play the speed game. Got beat by Pozuelo and Higuain against Miami. Nancy has to make those in-game adjustments. Then yesterday, he hit us up with Houston goal, an illustration of the question I asked last week. Teams playing direct and forcing CF Montreal defenders into one-to-one sprints. So it's become a recurring problem. And what I'll ask you guys pretty simply is, how do we fix it? If there's a way to do it, of course.
Well, I mean, Montreal, we know for sure that they're not the fastest defenders in the league. I don't think any of the back three are, right? I mean, even on that goal conceded to Houston, the first goal, where Sebastian Ferreira scored, I thought Rudy Camacho was placed fairly deep. He was, relatively close on his man. It was just a matter of Sebastian Ferreira kept his composure and relatively outmuscled him. So I'm still not super concerned. I think like the two goals, that G-Sharp called out, one was immediately after Montreal had scored, and you're never more vulnerable mentally than that.
I know, man.
And then the free kick, I think as well, not only was a phenomenal delivery, but I didn't have an issue with the placement of Rudy Camacho. Maybe just the fact that he was so like truly one-on-one back there. But I thought like he was close enough. He just didn't do enough to throw Ferreira off his game.
Hady.
Listen, this is what you get when you change tactics. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
First of all, you change tactics and you change the men that you play with, right? So you have Chouanière and Piet sitting in the middle of the pitch, and we saw it in the first half. It was very hard for them at first because you didn't know which one had to sit behind. And usually when it's Piet and Wanyama, we know that it's Wanyama that sits behind and Piet that gets forward. Now it was they were a bit
Confusion?
lost.
They were finding their game as the game came along. Right?
Exactly. And that's why the two goals came in the first half, because that's when they were still finding their mark. And it got better in the second half, and I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it. So it's just a way... it's just normal if you're using your whole squad, the rotation, the tactical adjustments that you're making. So this is something that we're gonna have to deal with until the end of the year, and that's normal because there's so many changes, and players are not robots, right? Players are gonna make are not sometimes not gonna react the right way because they're not used to react the same way because the changes are being done from 1 week to the other. So for me, it's not the end of the world. Same as Eve. The important thing is that we still are able to create chances and to score goals and win and get the 3 points, and that's what we did.
That's interesting because Eve, you talked more about the one-on-one that maybe it was just misplay by Camacho. Hady, you talking more about the personnel changes. I see it a bit more in a tactical way, in a sense that listen, when you're gonna play these very high lines to keep the pressure going, you need to have a very high defensive line, right? Otherwise, if you play committing a lot of players on the press and your defense is sitting 30 yards from your goal, you're gonna be so exposed. So I think the way to fix that is just more focus in midfield, because on that particular play, we will talk about Kone later, but Ismail Kone kind of doesn't put pressure at all on Herrera. Had he put a bit more of an effort on that play, Herrera doesn't have a clean pass to Ferreira, who's one-on-one with Camacho. So how you compensate the high line is to be very aggressive in midfield and block the pass. Once the pass is gone, the mistake has already been made, in my opinion. So that could be an avenue, but
But how are you gonna like worry about a high line on a free kick?
well, that's the thing, because they had played it short, but I have the feeling that everyone was kind of sleeping a bit, and once the free kick was played short, Herrera put his head up and saw that he had time to send his pass. So I don't know, man. It's tough, but I really think it has to come from the midfielders more than from the defenders in this particular instance. Guys, we'll go back to the game because, as you alluded, Eve, you're always more vulnerable when you just scored. Well, the opposite happened this week. Last week it was Miami who caught us sleeping right after we scored. Now it was our turn. Georgi Mihailovic made a darting run through midfield and was fouled by Steve Clark, Houston goalie. Romel Kyoto converted the penalty and made it 1-1. But let's talk about Georgie here for a moment, not Kyoto. Hady, Georgie had a better game yesterday. What was different in the way that Georgie attacked this game, in your opinion, compared to his other games this year?
The tactical system that he knows, right? I talked about it a bit earlier. For me, the 3-4-3 is exactly what Georgi Mihailovic likes and understands, and he knows his position, he knows his role, he knows what he needs to do, and he has that. I don't know if it's because he knows the system or he's better adapted to that system, but he played very well. He should have scored a couple of goals yesterday. So as simple as that. He was very, very sharp and very, very good and very, implicated in the games and in the constructions. That's something that we didn't see, the previous games since he came back from injuries. So, I think it's mostly the 3-4-3. The fact that he's playing supposedly playing on the left field, on the left side, and then he switches from time to time. But still, he's someone that has the liberty, because it's not too cramped up front. So he has the liberty and the space to really express himself. When you play the 3-5-2, there's already two men up front. So he has a bit less space to be decisive in front of the goal. So I think that's my opinion, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to, at one point, if he plays enough games with that 3-5-2, he's going to be able to find his place and be decisive again within that system. It just didn't happen yet.
Eve, could it be that, transfer talks were starting to just distract Georgia a bit? Yes, there was the injury, but it has to be difficult to concentrate 100% when your name is often in the media week after week talking about you leaving the club, no?
I know we're going to talk a little bit about it later, but we did learn this week that there weren't really any concrete offers on the table for Georgie. So I would be kind of surprised if he had mentally checked out as a result of that. I'm sure all of those things weigh on a player's head, but I'm also willing to bet that there was probably some interest even last summer for him. And, probably around late season or even maybe the start of this season for a summer window. So I would be really surprised if that were the case.
Cool. Guys, in the 27th minute, after the ball pinball all over the place in Houston's penalty area, Sampiat one-touched the ball brilliantly to Alistair Johnston, who smashed the ball through Hector Herrera's legs past Steve Clark. Eve, Alistair Johnston put in another solid shift. Can we say that consistency has been the key for the Canadian?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely been beneficial that he's been playing consistently at wingback for the past several weeks. After a little bit of an experiment, in the right center back position.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, needs must forced him into that late in the game this week or yesterday, which is all well and good that happens. But I think definitely that is where he needs to be. And even without Joel Waterman, developing that chemistry with him, even though Gabriela Corbo was the right center back, who was covering him, still was able to make the effective runs and found himself in a spot we've seen him on many a set piece.
Hady, Piet was playing a different role yesterday, right? Essentially playing the Wanyama position, I'd say. And he looked very good again. How important will Sam Piet be down the stretch while we look to clinch the playoff berth?
Oh, he's always been a very important part of the squad. A lot of people are not, okay with that comment here, but it's true. Sam Piet has 150 caps for 150 games for CF Montreal, and there's a reason why, right? There's a reason why, because he's been so consistent, he's been so good, and he's been an example. And he's been able to adapt his game to a different style. Yes, it's not always beautiful. Yes, he's never going to be the box-to-box midfielder that everybody think he could be, because it's not his play. But he's still making whatever he needs to do in order to be a starter in the squad. I think it's his third assist of the season already. Who would have thought that Sam Piet would give 3 assists in a season? And this is how much he was able to adapt his game. And we see him play a bit more direct than he used to do. Forward passes a lot more. We saw that pass for Alistair Johnston, but he did another marvelous pass for Lassi Lapalainen in the second half too. Lassi didn't score on that particular play, but he did it also in the second half. It could have been a goal. It could have been another assist for him. So this is becoming a part of his game, this direct play, being able to dictate the play in a way. He's never going to be Xavi, but still, he's able to dictate the play in a way.
And, moving on, in the 31st and 34th minute, James Pantemis was tested in quick succession and made some fantastic saves. But in the 35th minute, he could do nothing, though, when Daniel Steres beat Rudy Camacho to a cross and deflected the ball into the back of the net. At that moment, we were all square again. Guys, for me, it was a good performance by Pantemis yesterday. Hady, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Sorry, my son is making a lot of noise. I'm being sad, so sorry about that. My son is,
he's enjoying his Sunday.
We love Nadim, no problem, man.
When he's eating, man, he makes a lot of noise. I don't know why, but yeah, no. Pantemis had a good game. I think he made some clutch saves a couple of times, and that he made one marvelous save when there was a deflection and he was able to bring his toes up and just save. Awesome. I don't know how he did that.
I just feel bad because Montreal wasn't able to deal with the onslaught.
Yeah, the corner.
So it kind of felt like it was a save for nothing, but it was a really good save.
No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think he made himself the number one goalie. Go ahead, Yves.
No, I'm so sorry I just had the thought, because a lot of, I think, Montreal's problems last night were caused by Houston's attackers being able to really catch Montreal's defense slow-footed. And more so than usual, and I found that they were getting in behind the back line with relative ease. And obviously, like, guys like Fafa Pico, we know they're fast. But regardless, James Pantemis, he had to come out of his box and play that sweeper keeper on several occasions, and I think that's something we hadn't seen as much of from him previously. So that was, I was really interested to see that he was decisive, like he wasn't shying away. There was an instance where, like, he almost kind of came together with the opposition player in the first half. So I found that an interesting, and I feel like that's something new that he's brought to his game.
Yeah, he's definitely brought that, and it was good to see because it's reassuring for center backs. When you know that your goalie is on his toes, he's close to you. You know that you're playing that high line. You're really shuffling, like really always checking behind your shoulders the run, and you know the goalie is quick. He's there. It gives you a bit more leeway. You're a bit less tense when you're playing, and that's very important. Hadi, did you have something to add on Pantemis?
Oh no, I'm good. I'm happy about
Yeah.
his performance yesterday.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Guys, there was a real moment of controversy in the 43rd minute when Memo Rodriguez handled the ball. We'll show a little picture on the screen for
Like
those
the
who missed it.
43rd through like the 47th minute.
Yeah, so there you go. So Memo Rodriguez, a chance I'll just explain it for people who missed it. Johnston shoots. Memo Rodriguez kind of makes a motion of slight tackling, but in order to block the shot, he does block the shot. It deflects off his arm. And the referee points to the spot, was sent to VAR. And he overturned VAR and kept his decision. Now, none of us, Hady, Eve, or I, are refereeing experts, so we won't be here saying that it should be this, it should be that. We don't really know that part of the game.
We all have our opinion, I guess, but
yeah, and we're biased for sure. So we hit up someone who knows refereeing very well, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, but first of all, of course, we're going to introduce him with a small segment, right? Because where the ball is round, right?
For that.
So we have a little impromptu visit of Émile Archambault, former referee in Quebec and referee enthusiastic, really active on Twitter, talking about refereeing and these controversial bits and parts in the game. And we had one yesterday. It was the handball that led to the second penalty for Montreal. Émile, so just explain us a bit, because there was kind of two point of view on Facebook, on Twitter. People were saying, I think it's a penalty. The arm was in an unnatural position. Other people said, well, what is the defender supposed to do? From a referee point of view, what would you see on that one?
All right. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you very much for having me.
A pleasure, man.
Yeah. The handball offenses are always very controversial for precisely that reason. I mean, you often hear that from coaches, players, and so on. Players have arms, and you don't want to penalize someone just for having an arm. They have to put them somewhere. The International Football Association Board, the organization that writes the laws of the game, have tried many times in the past 5-10 years to rewrite it, find a way that sort of aligns with what they want to do and what sort of common sense people expect offenses to be. So it's always trying to find that balance. Instinctively, everyone sort of knows this should be a foul and this should not be. And then you're trying to find a way to write the law that sort of captures what you want to do, that doesn't allow defenders to do, to use their arms in unfair ways without penalizing someone just for having an arm. Yeah. So the latest version of it is they've narrowed it down really to two categories of offenses. If a player does one of these two things with their arms, that is a foul. There's a third one if a player scores with their hands, but that's not relevant here. So the first one is what they call deliberately touching the ball with their hand or arms. So there we're looking really at a player moving their hand towards a ball to stop it, to touch it, to handle it. Sometimes you will see, for instance, attackers doing a chest control and moving their arm to absorb it. That would be a case of deliberately moving. So this is what we would often say hand to ball offenses, and are also fairly straightforward. And the other one, which is the one that concerns us here, is, and I'll read you the exact wording to make sure I get it right, is a player that touches the ball with their hand or arm when it has made their body unnaturally bigger. And now how the IFAB, the Football Association Board, defines that is when that unnatural movement is when the position of the hand cannot be justified or explained by the movement they're doing. So we're looking really, is this position natural in the context of how the player is doing what they're doing, if in the case of their action. So for instance, it's not just that an arm that is outstretched will always be a foul. If a player is jumping, for instance, to go for a header, it is normal to have the arms somewhat outstretched. So then is or if a player is sliding, like in this situation, is it normal in the context of their slide? What the end of that wording, though, is, and I quote again, by having their arm or hand in such a position, the player takes a risk of their hand arm being hit by the ball and being penalized.
Okay.
So it is considered deliberate to the extent that if the player puts their arm in an unnatural position, they're taking the risk of committing an offense. So then the question that where it really boils down in this case is, in the case of, it was Memo Rodriguez, right? In the context of his action, sliding to block a shot, was the movement of his arm natural or was it unnatural? Was it something that just normally followed from him making a slide? And in his case, we have to consider both arms as well, and I'll come to that in a second. And it touches his left arm, but I want to talk for a second about his right as well. If you pull up the video, that will be quite helpful. In the previous laws of the game, the laws from last year, the wording was much more precise. And I bring that up because the IFAB has said that they're clarifying the wording, not changing the meaning of the law.
Okay.
So last year, what it said, there was a section specifically about sliding, where it says that a player, let me just, sorry, I'm just getting lost in my wording here. When it is not, so in the 2021 laws, it is not an offense when a player falls and the hand arm is between the body and the ground to support the body, but not extended laterally or vertically away from the body. Yeah. And so what we see in this video is that Memo Rodriguez's right arm does that. It is on the ground to support the body in a slide, and it is not extended away from the body.
Yeah.
If the ball had touched his right arm, that's perfectly fine. In the case of his left, though, the arm is not in line with the body. Okay. It is extending away. Is that a natural movement? The referee here judged that it was not, that the arm was not, that position could not be explained by the movement. So we see the ball first hit his legs and then bounce back and hit the arm that is still outstretched. And I suspect that the referee judged from his position that Memo Rodriguez did not do enough to bring the arm back to his body to avoid taking that risk and making his body unnaturally bigger. It's harsh, yes, and it's a difficult thing to do, but also these are elite players. They're supposed to have control of their body and be able to do these things legally.
Yeah, and before the start of the season, Pro will often go and meet with the teams and maybe explain these subtleties. My question is, so if obviously the referee really applied the rule to the letter on this particular instance, why would the VAR judge would have sent the referee on to watch, to look again at the action? And what was funny for those who I saw it on live, maybe you didn't realize, but when they were pointing to the referee with the camera when he was talking to VAR judge, the referee didn't look too happy to have been called over, and he was like a bit, I don't know if they were like getting in an exchange or something, but he didn't look too happy. So what would be the directive from the VAR judge to send the referee over to the monitor in this particular instance?
Right. It is difficult to know because we don't always get to hear the communications between the VAR and the referee. Pro, the organization that manages referees, every weekend, a week after the games, puts out two pieces of content. One that is called the definitive angle, which is an explanation of every review and whether they agree with it, whether the official ruling agrees with the decision of the referees or not, and what happened. And one that is called the definitive, the other is Inside Video Review, which is a video series they put out on YouTube that sort of selects certain situations. And often they will give you excerpts of the communications then. So a week from now, maybe we'll hear it all. Hopefully, yes. In the meantime, I think one point to consider is where the referee is positioned. He's not sort of in line with the images we see. He is at a more or less a 90-degree angle. So it's possible that the referee explained what he saw, and that from his point of view, it was very clear. It was very clear that the arm was extended, whereas the VAR with his images perhaps judged that the arm was at the same level as the legs, therefore that Rodriguez had done enough to put it behind, to put it in line with his body and not enlarge his body. In the end, where I suspect that the referee may have gotten a bit annoyed or so is these are questions of interpretation.
Exactly.
The referee has to judge in his perspective, was this a position that could be explained by the movement of the player or not? For a VAR to come in and not overrule, because the decision always belongs to the referee, but challenge the referee on that, the VAR has to be very certain that they think the referee made the wrong interpretation. I suspect that here, in the end, the referee decided that he was not certain that he had committed a clear and obvious error, and therefore that his decision should be reversed. I think that in this case, if the VAR had decided not to recommend a review, it would not have been a wrong decision, given that it's a question of interpretation so much. VARs should trust the decision of the referee unless they're very certain.
Yeah.
In this case, it probably came down to a question of angles of vision, that the VAR thought they had a better angle and that therefore they were in a position to intervene.
But it was very interesting from a referee point of view, because what you explained me is rarely on the positioning of the arms is rarely talked on when there's commentators often criticizing referee decisions, but this is a very, very important point. Also, due to the fact that we rarely see a referee go to the monitor and stick with his decision. Usually you see a reverse of the decision. So it was very interesting. And thank you, Emil. It was a very, very enlightening segment. And I'm happy that you were able to take the time and show and explain that to us a bit.
Yeah, of course. No, it's always a pleasure to discuss refereeing questions or questions about the laws of the game. I live in Europe and at the moment, so I don't have time to watch the games necessarily live. But if people want to hit me up with questions, I'm always happy to take them when I can. With video, it helps because just easier to find exactly the situation talking about. But I'm always happy to talk about refereeing and to explain why referees come to the decisions they do. And there's generally an explanation why they do it. They're not always right, but trying to understand sort of why they came to that decision, even if it's a wrong one, there might be a good process that led to it. So no, it's always a pleasure. And I might try in the next few days. There are UEFA in particular puts out referee assistant programs, video sets every 6 months with decisions and explanations. So I will in the next few days have a look through them and see if I find videos that sort of explain why this situation came out the way it did. I might post them on Twitter, so keep an eye on that as well.
So where can people find you on Twitter if they're interested by this aspect of football refereeing?
Sure. Well, so I created a Twitter account specifically for soccer discussions. I'm an academic. I'm a researcher in my professional life, and I figure that people who read me for that don't care about my soccer opinions and vice versa. So Emil a soccer, Emil Archambault. So Emil EMIL soccer. That's my Twitter handle for my soccer account. Yeah, happy to talk about refereeing or laws of the game with anyone.
Well, we're happy to have had you on the show, Emil. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you back because it was really, really interesting.
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Yeah,
Guys, I
very
hope
very interesting.
yeah, for sure. I hope it
Yeah.
answered everyone's questioning on what happened on that moment.
Yeah, I still find it a harsh call. I'm sorry. I know, Emil changed my mind a little bit, but I still found it harsh on the field. I really, really did.
Yeah,
Oh, Emil didn't change my mind. It is harsh. It is
yeah,
very
it is.
harsh.
But he
But
said it himself, right? He
yeah,
said
he
it
said it.
himself,
Yeah.
He
but
just explained, the perspective of the
Yeah.
referee. So
Yeah.
and that's all. And at the end of the day, it's the interpretation of the referee that that takes a
Exactly.
decision, right? And yeah, for me, it was very harsh, very very harsh.
Yeah.
so I hope everyone liked the segment with Emil. If you did, well, I'd love to have him back, so we'll check that out. Guess we'll go back to the game because there's still a lot to talk about. Well, Robbie liked it, nice. So it led to a penalty, right? And Kyoto eventually missed it, and we headed to halftime with the score locked at 2-2.
It's because the ball don't lie.
Sorry?
By the way, I said that's because the ball don't lie.
Yeah. Coach Hady, what would your halftime speech be to the players?
My halftime speech would have been, offensively, you're doing great, guys. Defensively, hey, midfielders, what are you doing? And I would just maybe have a talk with the midfielders, with Saint-Pierre, Mathieu Chouanière, and Ismail Kone, Georgi Mihailovic, to say, you know what, when one goes forward, the other one has to stay behind. Make sure to cover because there's too much space within the midfield, and that's why we have those counterattacks that are working. That are really doing us harm, and that will be my team talk. But offensively, I think we were doing great. There wasn't a problem there. It's just more defensively in transition that was the problem. So yeah, my team talk would have been directed to the midfielders, especially.
Interesting. Eve, any changes personnel or tactically that you were expecting to see going into the second half?
So obviously, I think Hady alluded to it a moment ago. Montreal's midfield was really struggling in that first half. So, I don't think it was a question of the number of bodies in midfield necessarily. So probably more of a question of personnel. And it was pretty easy to see that it was Ismail Kone who was struggling the most.
Yeah.
Obviously, who is probably not in a role that best suits him. But nonetheless, then as well, as we talked about earlier, with Chouanière and Piet struggling to figure out their complementary roles for each other, it was just messy. So I think definitely needed to get somebody else in who could be 100% sure of what they were doing to help things stabilize behind the front line.
Yeah, I think we have to talk about Ismail Kone a bit because, for me, it was probably one of his worst games since he's been in Montreal. And now there was a lot of things. Yes, his passing, he created a lot of turnovers. His positioning was off. His work rate, some criticize his work rate. I think the problem yesterday was just the whole thing. And sometimes you'll have off games as players, right? You just step on the pitch and you just don't understand why every time you touch the ball you make a mistake. You don't have your legs under you. But I think where Kone is learning, and it's difficult for him to learn, is I think going into his career, he's leaned a lot on his talent. He's a very talented player. Nobody can deny that. He's leaned a lot on it, and now he's going through some rough patches. And often players, midfielders, a lot, will say, let's just work, get scrappy, get dirty a bit in the game, and maybe it's something that Kone never really had to do until now. So he's learning it, and you could read a lot of frustration in his body language. He was gesticulating a lot when he missed a pass. He was kind of pointing someone else, and it was just not going for him. So Wilfred Nassi's decisions to take him off at halftime was the good one. Now everything going forward will be teaching. Is it a tactical problem? Is it a physical problem? Was it a mental problem? Now Wilfred Nassi has to see how the chart separates, because I think it was a bit of everything, but work with him and put his mind right, his mind back into where it has to be, because it was a bit hard to see him show so much frustration and negative vibes through his body language during that game. Guys, anything to add?
No, not really. Just I think got to keep an eye on him. Got to make sure he's well surrounded as he goes through his growing pains in the pro game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Nothing to add.
So, like I said, Wilfried Nancy took Ismael Kone off at halftime and replaced him by Joaquin Torres. The start of the second half was nothing like the first, as both teams were way more cautious to start the period. But in the 55th minute, Nancy was forced to make another substitution when Rudy Camacho went out clutching his right shoulder. It didn't look good for Rudy, and so ZBG was set in to replace the Frenchman, pushing Corbo to center back and Alistair Johnston to right center back, while Bourguillard took the right flank. Guys, there's no update yet on Rudy's status, but we hopefully will have this week. Hady, usually do they give injury reports during the week when?
No, you just need to ask the question at the presser. So
Okay.
that's when we're gonna have a bit more information. But I just want to add one thing. Losing Camacho is a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Because we said it at the beginning of the season that Camacho wasn't yet, the central defender of 2021, but lately he has been that central defender, that rock in the defense. He has been very good for CF Montreal. And I just want to give you a stat. Cannes Football Club did a small tweet with the number of pressings made by CF Montreal players, and in between brackets you have number of pressings that were successful. And Simple Guy answered with the percentages. And I think this tweet is a bit more relevant, in my opinion, with the percentages. Yeah. And you look at the players that have the best successful rate with the pressings, and it's Camacho.
Oh, yeah.
And
by a bit.
Who else? It's Camacho, and then you have right after, it's 30. He has 38% Camacho, and 33% is Saint-Piet. So that's how important Camacho is when doing pressing and when being the general of the defense. And he gives that extra push going forward. And that's something that you don't see a lot in central defenders, because doing a pressing that's successful, that means that you get the ball, higher up the pitch. And at that point, of course, you can directly start a transition and go forward right away. Mm-hmm. So he's the main guy in Wilfried Nancy's system. So it just bugs me that he's out now. So I hope that it's not going to be a long injury.
Yeah, we all hope so, because it didn't look too good. And he rarely stays down. So when he was staying down for a long time, you knew that something was up.
Yeah.
I guess we'll move on to...
Sorry. Active on Instagram last night, if that makes any difference.
We'll take every good news that comes. So thanks.
I'm diving down those holes, nurturing my theories.
Guys, we move on to the 68th minute. Lassie dribbled his way into Houston's penalty area and unleashed a curling shot that beat Steve Clark. A great goal by Lassie. Yves, Lassie was trending up immensely recently. Were you happy seeing him finally be rewarded with his goal?
Yeah, I mean, this goal kind of was the definition of, if at first you don't succeed, try again. But Lassie definitely had been on the ascendancy, really, I'd say, in the last 10 matches. We've just seen a lot of growth with him. We've seen he developed some chemistry with Georgi Mihailovic finally. That took a while, but we got there. It seems as though he's not being as obvious about his preference to cut in on his right foot. It's not as telegraphed to the opposition defender, even though he still definitely does have that preference. And I mean, that is his preferred style of shot, and usually from roughly where he shot from in the box this time around. So really happy for him that it came off, because he has worked hard. I mean, he runs up and down that left flank every game like you wouldn't, like he's just bathed in sweat, by the end of it. And it's no surprise that he often does need to be subbed off. I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't last 5 minutes doing what he does. So no, really, really, really pleased for Lassie.
And Hady, Lassie and Johnston, if I'm not mistaken, have the same stats this year, something like two goals, 5 assists. You remember last year in our end of season postmortem, we lamented the fact that we didn't see enough contribution from this crucial position in Wilfried Nancy's system. Could this be one of the key factors for our good 2022 seasons that we finally unlocked these positions.
What do we say in English? A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah. So for those who are listening and not on video, Hady hit us up with the standings. It shows Montreal in second position, only behind Philadelphia in first.
And the +2 goal difference clearly needs to be credited to Lasse's 2 goals on the season.
Oh man, she always finds something. Huh? It's crazy. It's crazy. They're second, Eve. They're second in the standings. Yes. I don't care about goal differential, even if it's -40. I don't care.
I was saying something nice. Oh my god. Okay, that's the last time I say something nice on the show.
No, but
because we're not used to it, Eve. That's why.
Exactly, we're not used to it. No, but like to answer your question, yeah, of course, we needed that. We needed that. We need those we needed those stats from our wingbacks, and that's what we're getting. And of course, you know, we're getting the rewards, and we're getting exactly what we need. We're getting that extra oomph up front, because, you know, strikers are not enough, midfielders are not enough nowadays. You know, in modern football, you need the wing backs to produce, and right now they are producing. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we move on to the 77th minute. Wilfried Nancy plays his last cards. In came Kai Kamara, Victor Wanyama, and Robert Torkelson. Off came Kyoto, Schwanyag, and Lapalainen. So, guys, the game ended 3-2, and Montreal picked up their very first away victory in Houston. We're now on a 6-game unbeaten streak, and we're guaranteed to finish the week in second place as NYCFC lost against Inter Miami last night. So that's what's up, guys. Anything to add on this game before we move on to previewing the New England one?
No.
Guys, home game against New England next Saturday. As usual, Montreal will win if, Montreal will lose if, as we always do on The Ball Is On. And if you guys are not ready, I'll go.
I can go.
Eve, please.
Right. Montreal will win if they are able to continue. Sorry, the word lost me for a second. Montreal will win if the fullbacks / wingbacks are able to continue contributing in those important ways, whether it's an assist or a goal. I think we're enjoying a lot of what we're seeing from them, and I want them to keep it up, please. Montreal will lose if Josie Altidore returns from his loan to Mexico early just to punish Montreal.
I was wondering where you were going with this one. Okay, yeah.
You know he loves to score against us.
True story.
I figure if he leapt out of a helicopter onto the pitch, we'd probably lose.
Yeah, he scored for sure. Yeah. Hady, you ready or I go?
Yeah, I am ready. Ready.
Go ahead.
I think Montreal will win if they score. And the only reason I say that is because New England is on a 4 games without conceding. So 4 clean sheets in a row. And they're not scoring much, right? They scored 4 goals, one game where they scored 3 goals, and the other one where they scored 1. The other 2 games are 0-0s. So they're not scoring a lot. So yeah, I think that Montreal will win if they score. Montreal will lose.
I have like a serious one if you want a serious one.
Go ahead. You know, I'll give my take to Eve. Go.
Set pieces. I think New England has a lot of players who are capable of converting off of set pieces. Like you think of, for example, the defender Andrew Farrell. He's somebody who was actually punished Montreal on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
So for me, I would be concerned about corner kicks. And
and I have
to New England.
And I have the great corner kick taker with Carlos.
I know.
So yeah, great point, Eve.
Yeah, interesting. Hady, you took mine.
Sorry, man.
But it's all good. We're seeing the same thing. You know, New England, 4 games, a full month without conceding. It's pretty crazy. I don't know if it's a month, but clearly 4 games without conceding. Pretty crazy. So Montreal will lose, I think, if we can't get a good offensive performance, because they won't gift us a goal. I hope I jinx it for them, but I don't think they'll gift us a goal. I think Montreal will, well, it goes in hand, but I think Montreal will win if no, if we keep a structure, because if it's going to be a long game in which there's not a lot of chances, if it's a very cagey, tight affair, it's dangerous. Sometimes we get a bit impatient and we try to overplay, maybe go a bit against what we're used to. We're very good in open games, back and forth. These tighter games are more difficult. So if we stick to the match plan, I think Wilfried Nancy has proven that when he does, draw up a game plan, it usually is working against the opposition. So the players need to keep patience and focus against a team that won't give them much, and will win if that happens. Our friend Tate Brooks had a question for us, guys, and we'll put it on the screen. Will we sell out Stade Saputo next Saturday against New England? Eve, I'll start with you. Yes or no?
I don't think we'll fully sell it out, but I think it'll be really good attendance. And if anybody is looking for an additional incentive to show up to Stade Saputo, and you want to make a day of it, I definitely recommend hitting up the tailgate pre-match next week in the parking lot by Stade Saputo and by like the sports complex there.
Pierre Charbonneau.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pierre Charbonneau, there you go, facing Pierre Charbonneau. So next week's tailgate is the 127 supporters group, and I'm sorry, Nadim, I know, but I'm excited for it. I'm sorry that he isn't. So next week's tailgate, 127 supporters group is doing their annual corn boil, épluchette in French.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's called in English. I don't have the word for it, but basically corn on the cob and a large quantity of it. And 1642 is going to be collecting gear for Kai Kamara's Heart-Shaped Hands Foundation. So
Nice.
2 good reasons to show up. And of course, the third reason being you can discuss soccer with a bunch of exciting people to discuss soccer with, including yours truly.
Beautiful. Hady, so Eve doesn't think we will sell out. Do you think we'll sell out that game?
No, we won't because I'm not there. But I'm joking. No, no, I won't be there. Unfortunately, going camping this next week. But yeah, no, I don't think so because I'm not really sure that the opponent is a good opponent in order to sell out. Unfortunately, I don't think that CF Montreal is unfortunately.
Marketable?
No, I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. I don't think that they're put in front by the media and they're not covered
Right.
well enough. I think that CF Montreal should be on all radio stations right now just because they're second in the East.
Yeah.
For me,
'Cause
when you
they're
have a
playing.
local team, when you have when you have a local team, even if
Yeah.
it's not your first sport, okay, and it's okay, we know that we're never going to be the first sport, and that's okay. I don't mind that. But when your team, your local team, is in a major sport, maybe not a major league in North America, but in a major sport, because I'm not going to go into major leagues and stuff like that, but major sport, worldwide, and they're second in their conference. I think that all media should be talking about them 24 hours, 7 days a week, because this is how you support your local teams, right? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it's not the case right now. So that's why we're not going to see a sellout. Because if, let's say, I'm a big hockey fan, I'm a big American football fan, I'm a big whatever fan, golf fan, or whatever it is, and I listen to the radio, I listen to TV, I watch TV, and I watch my usual episodes. If I see that one of my teams is in second place, maybe I'll be, even if I don't like the sport, I'll be interested to go once because they're a good team and they're doing well. So for me, that's the reason why it's not going to be sold, because we don't have anybody on this, on the other end that's known worldwide. We have very good players like Carlos Hale, and other players, of course, with New England, but not enough to get a sellout, in my opinion.
So we're still dependent a bit of our opponent to sell out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it could change. It could change.
Listen, I'm optimistic for that. I think we will sell out. We'll sell out the tickets now. maybe like last game, the Miami game. I think they said no, it wasn't this one. It was the one before the NYC game. They said full house, but when you looked around you, it wasn't necessarily a full house.
How like it always is though, because it's based on the number of tickets that were sold.
We're a lot better than other teams. When you see Toronto saying that they're full house and it's half the stadium that's empty.
I know. But I think that's kind of that situation is gonna happen. I think we're gonna say full house, and maybe it's gonna be maybe 1K, 1.5K missing, but it's gonna be a good.
It's maybe people that
wouldn't make me sweat.
Yeah, and it's maybe people that paid their ticket but didn't show up. Like, there's a lot of companies that have season tickets, and sometimes they don't find anybody to go to the game with. Like, sometimes they don't do a raffle or anything. They just bring their partners or people that they want to be partners with. They just bring them to the stadium, and sometimes they just don't have time. They're going outside, and they don't really think about their seats. So don't forget that. And second of all, there's some people that unfortunately cannot make it and didn't have time to sell the tickets, right? Yeah. So you're always gonna have that 500 to 1,000 empty seats. But what's important is that how many tickets are sold.
Yeah.
And I don't think that CF Montreal,
will sell.
No, I don't think that CF Montreal, gives a false number. I don't.
No. I never suggested that. I just maybe like it's. We will sell everything, but not get everyone. But that's all good for me. If you can get the ticket numbers up. We're far from when we were. There was about 10K at Stade Saputo, and they wouldn't tell the attendance because it was a bit embarrassing.
Sketchy.
So yeah, it's much better. Guys, we'll move on quickly. Olivier Renard and Vasily Kremanzidis made media appearances on La Presse and TSN 690 respectively. For those who missed it, I'll just do a little summary of what was said. And if Yves, Hady, you want to jump in after, if you have something to say, just feel free to do so. So Olivier Renard basically said there's no rush to extend either Wilfried Nancy or Romel Kyoto during the current season. Also, they both have an option year at the end of their contract, so there's no panic on that spot. Wanyama, a bit of a different situation. There's no option year, but they're still in questioning to which direction they want to take with him. They've not made up their mind yet. Kone's situation is a bit difficult to understand, I'll say. Renard said that there were multiple clubs after Ismael, while Vasily was more evasive, simply saying that there had been no concrete offer. Kone said, he kind of thanked Norwich for their offer, which Olivier Renard denied quickly that there had not been an offer. Mihailovic, no concrete and official offer at all. There's a possibility that if we do sell players before the end of the European transfer window closes, they would be sent back to Montreal directly on loan to finish the year, a bit like John Buchanan did for New England. Renard also said that Montreal would not have a club anytime soon in MLS Next Pro. Doesn't care what other clubs do. He admitted that in some games in PLSQ, like we had predicted, guys, here, and I know it was a hot take, people were not too happy with what we said, but his reserve club didn't look great, and he even used the word ridiculous, and that he knows, and I quote, that we do not have 25 talents in the under-23s that will be starters in MLS. So a lot to unpack, guys. So if there's anything you want to add, just go ahead, guys. I'll start with you, Hady.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to say. So I'm just gonna go point by point and be as brief as possible because Eve will kill me if I go too long. So first of all, so regarding Nancy, I said it at the beginning of the year here on TBIR, and for me, I said it for Nancy and I said it for Renard, and saying that if they don't bring results, of course they will not be extended because they need to get results. The potential and everything is good, but results are going to be as important. Renard brought results with his recruitment, so that's normal that he was, got an extension and even more than an extension of permanency. And for Wilfried Nancy, I think it's all about the results. How many last year? I think how many times did we talk about last year? The fact that unfortunately in the last 5-6 games of the season, we were in a very good position, and unfortunately, we didn't make the playoffs. So this year is going to be very important. Again, they do have a cushion with that option year, so that's the reason why we're not doing that. For Kyoto, I think it's the same thing. I think they're going to try to maybe renegotiate, maybe telling him, you know what, let's re-sign another contract for 2 or 3 years, but you know what, you're going to be 34 or 35 at the end of that contract. So let's try to get you to, 600K instead of getting 900K like you're getting 900K, sorry, like you're getting right now. So I think that it's going to be a negotiation process played on his age. For Wanyama, we talked about it, so I'm not going to say anything about it. For Kone, it's very important, guys, when we talk about offers, okay? What goes on in the backhand? It's very simple. First of all, there's Norwich or whoever club that say, you know what, we want to talk with Kone. They talk with CF Montreal. We want to talk with Kone. Are you okay with that? And then we'll decide. We'll do an offer whenever we reach an agreement. Montreal says yes. They go and they talk to Kone, and Kone is like, no. So officially, there's no concrete offer because there was no agreement with Kone. But there is interest. Mm-hmm. So the official offer is the interest. But, it's just playing on words.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a question of semantics and, expressing yourself a certain way.
Exactly. Nothing to say about Mihailovic. Nothing to say about the European window and, loan and no loans. I do have something to say about the PLSQ. And again, I said it at the beginning of the year. We have a very good league. And here in Quebec, the semi-pro league is a very good league. And people tend to look at the PLSQ as being semi-professional and not good enough. And it's not true. And we had our guest, Anthony Tatera, a couple of weeks ago that said that we have a very good league. And it shows. CF Montreal is not first in the standings. CF Montreal is fifth in the standings right now.
And they're doing better now because it started really, really bad.
It started very bad. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, you know what? Before going in, I do agree 100% with what Olivier Renard said. We have a chance here. We have a blessing here by having PLSQ. Why not use it and save a bit of money? And that's exactly what I would have done. So that's what I had to say.
Yves, your turn.
Let me see. I found it interesting. The funny allusion to some players may well be signed in Europe before the end of the European window, but return on loan to Montreal. That makes me feel like there's a little bit of smoke there might be a little bit of fire, because I feel like it's a little odd to just say something like that out of kind of left field. And to even open the door to that possibility without there actually being real conversations taking place as we speak. So that was probably what mostly caught my attention from those conversations. We've seen lots of the Canadian players who are obviously going to see their stock rise immensely after World Cup. We've seen lots of them enjoying really, really good seasons. I'm kind of surprised that nobody brought up Joel Waterman and maybe looking to extend his contract in either of those interviews, because I would be looking to do something like that if I were CF Montreal, and I hope they are. But definitely, I'm not super surprised, I guess, that they're kind of holding off a little bit on the Kyoto thing, because there is the option here to fall back on if need be. But yeah. No, overall, I think Hady captured a lot of what I wanted to say. That was just kind of...
Sorry.
That's okay. Don't
Great
be
minds.
sorry. Nothing to be sorry for. But yeah, I think I'm just going to keep an eye out if there's any more rumors that come up related to Montreal players.
Yeah, and Renard also alluded, because he was asked about Woobens Pacius, and he said that he could be back with the club. So... It was more that was said, but we went the opposite direction and we contacted Woobens and we wanted to pick his brain on a lot of things. So, guys, here it is, Woobens Pacius interview for you. So I'm very happy to be joined by Forge FC striker and former CF Montreal Academy player Woobens Pacius. How are you, man?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good, thank you. Woobens, you've enjoyed a successful first pro season with Forge last year. You scored 6 goals in league play, This year, you've already scored 10 with several games left in the season. Plus, you just have been named Player of the Month of July in CPL. Have you changed anything in your style this season to find more success in front of goal?
Not really, to be honest. I just feel like it's not new anymore. Last year was a little bit new. I came through the half of the season, so I had to take a little bit of time to know the league, know my teammates, but now I know them pretty well. So I just stick to what I can do, and it's score goals. So no, it's not a big change for me.
You got to know as very well as well Bobby, Kit, and the rest of the staff. How have they helped you evolve as a player?
They helped me a lot. Like I said in my previous interview, we worked on my positioning in the box, where I can score goals, how I can score goals, and I feel like we are doing a pretty good job for the moment. So I hope we can keep going like that, so I can score more goals. But yeah, we work a lot on my positioning and also my finishing. So yeah.
And a few months ago, we spoke with your assistant manager, Kate Saladopoulos, and it was a few weeks before you guys were traveling to Cruz Azul in the Champions League to play in that mythical stadium of Azteca. My question to you in that regard is, how do you keep your emotions in check when you throw into such a big occasion so early in your professional career?
Sometimes difficult. You feel like it's a dream, to
Yeah.
play in these big stadium, these big clubs, but we have to stay focused, because at the end we have to play a game. It was a Champions League game, so we have to stay focused. We can't be impressed by the stadium or the club or whatever. At the end of the day, it's a game, so we have to stay focused. And I think the team did a pretty good job. And now, of course, it's memories, but I'm pretty happy of the guys and what we did there.
And speaking about big stadium, big clubs, you're under contract with Forge until the end of the year, and the club has a year of option on your contract. But what would be your objectives and plans for the future?
Yeah, that's a big question. Of course, this season is going pretty well, so I'm really grateful for that. Again, I thank God every day for what I can do every day on the pitch. But yeah, of course, there's some interest. So I think during the off season, it's going to be important to talk with my agent, my family, to see what can happen. But of course, maybe to go in a higher league, MLS, or even in Europe, to keep going with my progression as a young player.
And you kind of touched on it, but I was wondering, let's say you have the opportunity to go to both, either MLS or in Europe. Do you have an idea where you would like to go first? If it's like Europe, let's say second division, would you go MLS? How's your thought process in there?
Again, it's really difficult, because there's so much possibilities. Second division, first division, in which country?
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. But of course, like I said, for a lot of players here, I feel like MLS is a really good league for the next step. But again, for young players, countries like France, Belgium, England, it's really good for young players for their development. So again, it can be a good path for me that way too.
Yeah, and speaking of MLS, you were part of Montreal's academy. Did you trained with the first team, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I trained with the first team. Actually, just before I came here at Forge, I did the preseason there.
Yeah, that's it.
It was pretty nice, to be honest. Personally, I think I did pretty well after there's stuff that we can't control. But no, it was really nice. I'm really grateful for everything that I did with CF Montreal. I was there since I was 14, and I left when I was 20. Well, yeah, 20. So I passed a lot of time there, and yeah.
Did the club give you any explanation on why you weren't awarded a contract before you signed with Forge?
It was it was a little bit difficult, because it was during the COVID, the big COVID moment.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was doing pretty well. like Ismael Kone was there with me, Zachary Fernandez, a lot of players from the academy. They did pretty well too, but at the time I think it was a little bit difficult. The team had to go to Miami for I think 3-4 months, so it was difficult for them to bring players from the academy, and they were not sure about giving them a contract and stuff like this. So again, like I said, there's stuff we can't control, and what we can control, we try to do our best. But again, there's stuff like this sometimes in life.
Yeah, but you played with a lot of academy players who are currently with CF Montreal. You know, Chouanière, Kone, Pantemis, and you know Wilfred Nancy very well. Are you still in contact with any of them?
I'm really well. I'm close with Isma. With Ismail Kone is one of my good friend. I talk to him often. So of course, I like to stay in contact with these guys. The Even with the younger guys like Rida Zouir,
Yeah.
all these guys, we played together. Yeah, I'm still in contact with them. The older guys like Mathieu Chouanière, I know him. I play with his brother. James Pentemis a little bit, not that much because we didn't play together because we have a certain different age. But yeah, I know them pretty well, and every time that I have the chance to talk with any of them, I take that opportunity, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And on May 25th, earlier this year, you guys traveled to Stade Saputo to face Montreal in the quarterfinal of the Canadian Championship. You know, although the result didn't go your team's way, how did you enjoy playing at home in Montreal in front of friends and family? And what was it it was your first time playing at Stade Saputo, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible. Like I said, I'm at the academy since I'm 14 years old.
Yeah.
The number of games that I've been in the stands, thinking of myself playing in that field, there's so much of them, and to be able to be on that field, even if it's not with the CF Montreal team, it was really nice. A lot of my friends or my family was there, so it's a really good moment for me in my young career.
Yeah, for sure, man. And there are a few players from Quebec in your team, Garvin Metusala, David Chouanière, I talked about him, Abubakar Sissoko. Has having some players from the same region as you helped you in the early stages of your pro career?
Yeah, of course. Because we are all from the same city. We know pretty much the same thing, so it's really good for us, especially with the language. At first, when you always used to speak in French, sometimes it's difficult to go somewhere it's only English. So no, it's really nice to have guys that are from the same city as you. So you can feel a little bit like home, because it's not always easy.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that seems to be very important for people here at home is that we'd like to have a CPL club in Quebec one day. And what would you think that would bring? What did it mean to young Quebecers to have a CPL team here in Quebec?
Yeah, even us in the CPL, the Quebecers, we all talk about it all the time. For us, Forge players, even with Halifax players, there's Quebecers in all the team in CPL, and we all think about it. And I feel like it will be really, really good for the province of Quebec. There's a lot of talent in Quebec, Montreal, and we can see it in the CPL. So I think it will be a really nice step for Quebec and also Canada to have more team in the CPL, and especially in Quebec.
You talked a bit about Halifax and other teams, but do you feel as a player that there's any particular rivalry with the CPL team when you're a Forge player, whether it's York, Atletico Ottawa, Pacific, like?
Yeah, of course. Even if the league is still young, we still have these, for example, Derby against York. There's that rivalry against Cavalry with Forge, the final, and
Yeah.
all those games. So, like I said, even if the league is still young, there's these rivalities that slowly getting bigger and bigger. So it's nice to have these rivalities.
And you guys, for the first time in last year, you didn't win the CPL. You know, how was that experience, and how do you think you grew individually and collectively for that experience?
Yeah, it's difficult. For me, it was my first year, so I wasn't there the year before when they won, and I wanted to win that trophy. But again, it's difficult, but it's part of life. It's part of football. We can't always win all the games, all the trophies. And now even the guy who scored the goal in the final is on our team this year. So, it's funny, but no, this year we are focused on every game that we have and to win that trophy. That if we go again in the final, we don't lose it again, and that we're gonna be able to lift the trophy this year.
Yeah, and you guys have a very good fan support, and you usually have good turnouts at Tim Horton Field. How important has the fan support been, especially as your team is new and growing in the league?
It's really important. I feel like we said in football, the 12th man.
Mm,
To have someone behind us that can cheer us, help us when sometimes in the game we're tired or whatever. Sometimes just to hear the crowd, it's a plus. We have that energy, and it's really important. And like I said all the time, I'm really grateful for the fans and all the stuff that they do for us. Because again, if it's not from them, it's really difficult for us. So again, I'm really grateful for that.
yeah. And okay, so earlier in the interview, I asked you of your plans for club football, but we would like to know too, have you made up your mind on which team you would like to play for the national team if you get a call up? Because you're eligible for Haiti and Canada, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, I have the both nationalities because of my parents. But again, I grew up here in Canada. All my years as a soccer player was here in Canada, so I feel like it's like if I have to give it to Canada. But
Mm,
again, if the opportunity never come, I know that 80 is always a, a possibility, and I know that they are watching me. They try to be in contact with me. So again, I'm still young. I don't want to rush anything, but we'll see in the next few seasons, few years.
nice. And Woobens, just to close out the interview with you, just three quick fire questions. So we'd like to know, who's your favorite player of all time?
My favorite player of all time. That's a difficult one, but I'll say Ronaldinho. I
Wow.
have to go with
Wow.
Ronaldinho because,
Wow.
like I said, I'm a striker right now. But
Uh-huh.
at the academy, when I was a bit younger, I was a left winger.
Mm,
When you're a left winger, you want to have a player that you can, look at and trying to be like him.
yeah.
So Ronaldinho for me is my favorite soccer player of all time. He's just incredible with the ball, and he won everything: Ballon d'Or, Champions League, World Cup. So yeah, for me, he's the best.
And he made it look so easy too.
Exactly,
Eh?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And your dream club?
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one. The team that I support for the moment is PSG.
Mm, okay.
I don't know if I say it's my dream club, but yeah, for the moment I'll say PSG because Neymar is my favorite actual player, and with all the big guys that they have now, I hope this year they're gonna win the Champions League. But yeah, if I can get name a team right now, it will be PSG. Yeah.
I, and last question. When you look at games on TV, whether in Europe and America, which striker do you try to emulate to build your game around?
Yeah, so I have two big striker that I like a lot is Lewandowski
Mm,
and Suarez. These two strikers are really my models by the way that they move off the ball when they have the ball with their finishing. I feel like they are two big strikers that I can learn a lot of from them, especially Suarez when he was at Barcelona. For me,
hmm
was incredible. of the ball with the ball at his feet. Of course, he had Neymar and Messi
Yeah,
around
that
him, but
helps.
yeah, but I feel like he was incredible, and we can see it when he was at Liverpool before, even after at Atletico Madrid. He's still a crazy striker, and of course Lewandowski, who scores 40, 50 goal a year. So these two strikers are really the two main strikers that I focused a lot on.
Nice, nice. So, Woobens Pacius, thank you so much for your time and accepting your invitation, and all the best for the rest of the year, man. You're in
Perfect.
that race for the golden boot, so keep it up, man.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully, I'll be able to grab that individual trophy. But again, I think the most important is the championship, and I'm gonna try to help the team the more I can.
Well, we cheer for you, man. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, man.
Wow. You know what, guys? It's the last time that we get Woobens Pacius on the show.
No,
because he doesn't support the
Come
right
on.
club. He doesn't support the right club. It's just not normal. I don't want him here anymore.
Hady.
I think
I-
PSG's jersey sales would disagree with you that it's not normal.
No, man. Woobens was great. I'm happy to have had him on, and
Yeah.
gave some interesting information.
Yeah,
On
true.
how his non-contract happened with Montreal, and it puts a bit of perspective, because I think eventually he will be a MLS talent. He looks like it, playing in the CPL. And thank you, Matthew, who says
Yeah.
great interview with Woobens. Yeah, Woobens is awesome. So it was easy to have an interview with him for sure.
Yeah, no, he seems like a really nice kid.
Yeah.
Which I understand is probably not like the ultimate compliment for a footballer, but that's what you get from me. So
Eva, I'll throw it to you, because the under-20 women national team are playing the World Cup right now in Costa Rica,
They sure
and
are.
we said that we would cover it, so of course we will. And Eve, you're there.
So, Canada kicked off against South Korea. So they are in a group, just in case anybody forgot, they're in a group with South Korea, France, and Nigeria. So when it comes to their performance against South Korea, they lost 2-0. Definitely wasn't probably the most ideal circumstances, because this match was played after the France-Nigeria match, which Nigeria won 1-0 quite late on, which probably surprised a lot of people. Certainly surprised me. I would typically consider France to be a favorite in most footballing competitions, but nonetheless, I think goes to show at the youth level, many more things can happen. So anyway, Canada, they did have some chances going forward in the first half. The match, like I said, it was late, and it was additionally delayed because there was a rain delay for the France-Nigeria match. And so maybe the pitch conditions weren't ideal, but it didn't look terrible, as far as like the ball dying in a puddle or anything like that, like we've seen in recent CONCACAF matches. Given that they're playing in Costa Rica, they are playing in the CONCACAF region, but nonetheless. So Canada conceded its 2 goals, both on set pieces. Canada gave up a lot of corners to South Korea during this match, and their first goal came, South Korea had, I think, 3 or 4 corners in a row, and it was just corner upon corner. So it was in the second half. So it actually wound up being a Brooklyn Courtnall own goal. Anna Karpenko was the starting keeper for this match, and I'm not gonna lie, her ability to kind of punch a ball aerially did not inspire confidence in me. It was generally weak. She missed several of them. This was one of the instances where she had tried to come out and punch a ball that was delivered fairly deep into the 6-yard box. So she might have been better off staying on her line, but nonetheless, the ball went over her and unfortunately ricocheted off of Courtnall and into the back of the Canadian net. The second
Sloppy goal, right?
It was sloppy. Yes, correct. Second goal was scored by the South Korean player, again off a corner, Moon Hae-yeon. And in this case, she got the header on the substitute Ward. And that one, it was just a matter of her getting a good run up to score. It was a good delivery to the back post as well. And she just scored one of those high headers that went into the opposite corner of the net. And we've seen that kind of play a bajillion times.
Yeah.
And, you know, once again, it kind of brings up, I think, a lot of questions because this is, again, a team being coached by basically a part-time youth coach because Cindy Tai, the coach, she's actually, her full-time job is the Dalhousie varsity coach. So I think that brings it up again. Nonetheless, Canada is currently last in its group on goal difference because the France-Nigeria game ended 1-0. And they will be playing France tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern.
And Matthew is telling us that Nigeria won against South Korea today.
Oh my God, Nigeria! Wow.
So Nigeria is first with 6 points right now. South Korea is second with 3 points, and then France and Canada. So with a win, Canada can, you know, tie South Korea and stay in the race. So that could be an interesting.
Yeah, it opened up the group. That's cool. Yeah, interesting.
And eliminate France, which is always a good thing.
No pressure.
So cool.
Makes me a little nervous though to play Nigeria third.
But
Nigeria's already beaten the other two.
Let's say they'll rest some players.
Exactly, because they'll be qualified, right? So they'll rest some players. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. Anything else?
Not much. I have a lot of general debates. It was good to see Jade Rose back again. So I was pleased to see her. She was wearing the captain's armband and definitely looked the part in my opinion. But I would definitely like to see some more decisive action in front of the opposition net from the Canadian players. They had some interesting build-up play. They did have a few set pieces, but nowhere near as many as South Korea. So I would like to see a little bit more clinicism. They really only forced one truly good save from the South Korean goalkeeper.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Sam, to Eve, because I didn't watch the game, unfortunately. But I was just wondering, you know, the central defense, there was Jade Rose, but also Viviane Bessette as a central defender. So how did you, because I didn't watch the game, so how did you find their performance? Were they good, even if, you know, yes, of course, we lost 2-0, but how did you find them together? Like, did they get along together? Because I think they're the future of the national team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a really strong proponent of Jade Rose any day of the week. Like I'd be happy to see her, you know, oftentimes in the senior team getting some more looks in for friendly matches and stuff like that. So I've always a Jade Rose proponent. Overall though, I think they did look all right. Like I said, maybe could have been a little bit more calm in some of those instances when South Korea was delivering service into the box and stuff, because they did end up giving up so many corners, and perhaps a few of them could, and I mean that was like really anyone along the back line I could make that comment of. So, you know, there might have been some instances where maybe a little bit more of a level head could have allowed for them to clear the ball upfield for a throw rather than a corner. But obviously this is their first game competitive. They did play a friendly prior to the tournament, but this is their first competitive match together. So, you know, I'm kind of willing to give it a little bit of another match to see if perhaps they get the jitters out.
Of course, and we have a few players that have touched a bit, you know, the senior team with Michaela Small, Olivia Smith, Zoe Burns. You know, all those players, you know, were called up at one point or were in the larger squads. You know, the preliminary squads before. So, what did you think about them? Now, Michaela Small didn't play during that game. But, you know, Olivia Smith did, I think, she did. She was a starter, and Zoe Burns, too.
Yeah, Zoe Burns, I'm not going to lie, I found her to be pretty anonymous on the pitch out there. So I won't comment too much. Olivia Smith did do some interesting build-up play. She did have a couple of shots that were off target. So, you know, she was at least trying something. But still, like I said, a lot of stuff just in that final third was not coming off for Canada. And there was really only one attack of note. So I don't want to give too much of a comment. I'd really rather allow them one more game together.
Of course.
I just don't want to be too
first
harsh.
Opinion, right? It's just a first opinion. It's nothing you're not going to be judged on it or anything. So
I know. I feel bad.
Of course.
Yeah,
She's only 18, right? Olivia Smith.
exactly.
She's
the
really
thing,
young.
eh?
Thing.
She just turned 18 9 days ago. So like we're not gonna be too harsh on
That's
that.
the
that's
thing.
the
Yeah,
thing,
we
yeah.
got to be patient.
Yeah. Of
Even
course, for sure.
when the I think it's Morrow, it was the under 21s or under 23s Canada.
Yeah.
21s.
Under 23s.
23s, yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
with Pentemis in goal.
yeah, the last tournament they went to the
Oh,
CONCACAF tournament.
that's the under 20 then.
20s,
Under
that's it.
23s. Under 23s was last year for the Olympics.
Yeah. Man, I forgot which age they were. I know they were kids, and you know, they didn't look good at all. Whole
No,
tournament.
and that's the
It
thing.
was
A part of me
difficult
can't
to-
help but I was thinking of that, and actually I'd written it down. Sorry, in my notes. You know, I was wondering, like, because we heard after the fact that really the purpose of the tournament for the U23s wasn't necessarily to win. It was more to see like how different players look.
That's
So
what they said after, though.
That's what they said after, yeah. So apparently that was the plan all along. So I don't know if that's the case with Canada. I think they did try to look competitive, if I'm being honest. But like I said, unfortunately, it really did not come off in the final third for them. And, you know, I think a little bit more calm on the back line would have prevented some of those corner kicks. And if you give enough corner kicks away, you will probably end up with something going for it. I will say, though, that two players who kind of caught my eye were Mia Pante and Simi Awujo. Simi Awujo, she had definitely the best of Canada's chances. So she definitely, I think, is somebody to keep an eye on for Canada for the rest of the tournament. And Mia Pente, she helped Jade Rose out a lot at the back. You know, Vivian Bissett certainly was there, but Mia Pente did come back a lot.
She's a left back, right?
Yeah, but she came in along on the inside as well a lot to help clean up when there were some overlaps.
But that's awesome. You know, we need help on left back in the first team, right? So yes, we do have Alicia Chapman that's been, you know, very good lately, even if I criticize her. But it's a good thing to have an extra left back.
Totally.
Good.
Yeah,
and the other one is?
The other one was Simi Awujo. She was playing kind of an attacking midfield role.
Nice.
But she was definitely really, really going deep into the attacking third. So I liked what she brought, and I'd like to see some more of her for sure.
Interesting.
Cool. Really cool. So they're playing tonight. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully they can get out of that group, because it's great experience, and you know, you grow exponentially at that age so early in your career. So if they can get these quarterfinal games, or just go to semi, it would be awesome, because it will be incredible.
Even the group stage is a good learning experience.
Yeah, for sure, man. But it's a different beast when you get to these bigger games, and everything's on the line. So hopefully the girls are able to get it done. That's it, Eve. Anything else?
No, just gonna definitely keep an eye. Like I said, you would generally think of France as being a powerhouse, so I worry a little, but they also lost their first match, so it'll be really interesting, because I think both of these teams are gonna come out, assuming Canada's taking this tournament seriously on a competitive level. Both teams, I think, are gonna come out and want to show a much better face than they showed in the first match.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Eve. Really interesting. Part 2 and Hady, social media.
Yeah, so social media, very interesting tweets that I read during the week. So let's start with the first one. It's from Alex Boljuk, and he was answering Eve's tweet at one point, and he said, let's get some playoff game in Montreal and try to get a bye for the first round. Are we getting a bit too excited, guys, or is it like normal for us to get that excited?
Okay, I'm going to be straight with you. I don't know, like, I was in a good mood this afternoon or what, but I joined a Twitter space because Sam and I had joined. Sam was also there, just for context. But Sam and I had joined Dynalytics podcast earlier in the week out of Houston, and they invited us to join their post-game Twitter space, and they invited us win, lose, or draw, which was super cool of them, and they're really nice, great podcast. Strongly recommend Dynalytics. So anyway, one of the questions that the hosts asked myself and Sam was how far do we think Montreal can go in the playoffs? Like, not even a question of will we make the playoffs, but how far will we go? And I actually
They asked us if we would make the final. I was like,
bro, I know, they were high on Montreal or something.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I actually said I could see Montreal getting. I'm going to say it. It's on the record. Oh my God, it's recorded. I think Montreal could get a home playoff match.
Oh wow, Eve, you were
A home playoff match, single solitary, a home.
At the beginning of the season, you said that they were finished between 9th and 10th place.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Just to put people in context.
But I said it to people from Houston, and I didn't think it would be fair if I didn't say it to people from Montreal, because they probably care a lot more than what people in Houston do. But nonetheless, I said it. It was live, and like, I don't know, they've come back several times recently to pick up points. So I'm like, okay, fine.
Listen, in your defense, I said that we would finish between the 8th and the 9th place, so I'm not better. The only person in this spot that says that we would qualify to the playoffs was Sam. But I think you said 6th or 7th place.
I said we would qualify on the 34th day of the season by a hair, I think. I wasn't that optimistic either, you know.
But more optimistic than us, right?
Yeah, so, for sure. But to answer Alex, yeah, I think we can start thinking about a playoff game in Montreal now. You know, it's always dangerous because we're a bit cautious, in Montreal, because we've been hurt a few times.
Well, like last year, the injury timing really, and I mean the depth players as well weren't really there to fill in. So yeah. But I think we can start, maybe not talk about it every day, but integrate it slowly in conversations, I'm gonna have to adjust really hard to changing this frame of mind.
Yeah, but one thing the bye for the first round, I'd be curious to see statistics of teams getting that bye. I don't think it's too good for them, because it's like 20 days without playing, and New England got that bye last year and they lost right after, and they had a monumental season. Like, it was one of the best ever in MLS history. I think it's the bye that hurt them. So I wouldn't go for the bye, but I'd push for the playoff game in Montreal, most definitely.
Oh, hopefully we'll get the bye too. To be honest, the better we are in the standings, the better it is, I think, for Montreal fans. So let's move on to the second one, and it's from Sim Pack. So Simon Pa 094600070. Still think Piet won't be in the Canadian national team roster at Qatar 2022. What a pass! What a goal, guys. Do we have a debate now? Is it debatable?
I doubt it was even debatable when we used to debate, but I don't think there's any debate now.
No, I don't think there was much of debate, like, for people who have heard John Herdman speak about Sam Piet. So for me, I wasn't debating this. Yeah,
I agree. Move on to the third one. So Sim, I agree 100%, man. Simon, I think that we all thought that Sam Piet would be in the squad in January, so it didn't change much for us. So next, Jimmy T, and I love that. It's a very small tweet, but he said Road Warriors.
They really are, though, this year.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So how can we explain that?
Mentality, man.
Oh my God, it's not going to be the nicest thing I've ever said.
Oh, wow.
I think Montreal thrives on the ambiance at the other stadiums.
Oh, man.
How
can you be that pessimistic, man? It's
Rudy Camacho
where do you find it?
No, players have said it. Absolutely. True. Players have said it. They said, they get chills at the other stadiums that they've visited and stuff. And I'm not knocking the efforts that the supporters at Stade Saputo make. I'm just saying, there are fuller stadiums in MLS, and there are stadiums that have, full walls of, and I'm not pro wall, by the way, but that have full walls of supporters and stuff. So I'm just saying.
Maybe it could be too the stubbornness of Wilfred Nancy that we sometimes criticize that plays in his hands too, because we saw Rémi Garde have a tactics for home games and tactics for away games. He even said it. He said it that he would try to be more offensive when he used to play at Sabuto versus when we go on the road. There's no one to really impress, so you can maybe defend a bit more. Nasi doesn't care where we play. It's the same. It's the same intensity. It's the same mindset, and players have bought into it. So, but yeah, there's definitely a positive mindset too, that this team goes out and competes, and they put it on the line every game. They're very physical. It seems to be a grueling style of play, a difficult style of play, but they're thriving in it. So I think it's working.
I don't know. I love it. I love when a team is able to play as well, away from home. I think it's usually a recipe for success, and we'll see. We'll see what will happen. Move on to this fourth tweet. It's Mounty that says Wilfried Nancy is the GOAT. And guys, I just want to hear you about that. If Wilfried Nancy gets Montreal, finishes the season in the first three, and just go to the playoffs, and just, even if he doesn't go to the final or anything, is he in discussion as being one of the best coaches that ever coached Montreal in MLS? Very important.
There are obviously other coaches who have gone on and kind of their career has exploded. So, but if you're talking about their tenure in
their
Montreal,
time here, yeah, their time in Montreal.
I'm inclined to say yeah, because I feel like he's had the least resources out of many of those coaches, and has certainly gotten very good bang for his buck out of most of his players. So honestly, yeah.
He's in discussion. So what does he need to be the GOAT?
Win
MLS Cup?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, or else if he doesn't win MLS Cup, he's not the GOAT.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of X factors, right? Oh God, he's got it. I want silverware. Period.
Okay.
No, it's fair. No, it's a fair thing to ask as a fan, right? We're there for that. And yes, Wilfried Nancy has brought a project, has brought a mentality, has brought a vision that maybe other coaches wouldn't say didn't have, maybe weren't able to implement it. But I think, I don't want to sound rude or anything, but coaching tenures in Montreal have mostly been negative anyways. I think Mauro Biello could be at this day considered the quote-unquote GOAT, but Mauro Biello's tactics were very basic. And even Chris Duval, who came on the show, admitted that Mauro was not necessarily a great tactician, more of a player's coach and a mentality. And so nothing to I don't want to take away anything from Wilfried Nancy, but
the bar is not very high. That's
exactly.
Okay.
Now, Wilfried Nancy is more than just his tenure in Montreal. It's all the story, him starting from the bottom in Quebec, going through the ladders, up and up and up from the academy until the top coaching job in Montreal. So I think unless something catastrophic happens during his tenure, because he will be fired one day, he will leave the club by his own, or he's gonna leave at some point. That's how it works. But I think that if he continues trending in this direction, definitely yes, to answer Monty's question.
Love it. I'm just gonna answer myself. As of right now, I already think that he is the GOAT as a coach in Montreal, even if he doesn't qualify for the playoffs. It's as simple as that. I think it's the first time that we see a coach really change the mentality of the club, going from a counter-attacking team to a possession team. He's the one that was able to put that in place. Yes, of course, it was started by Thierry Henry, but the adjustments that Wilfried Nancy brought, made that switch possible, and of course, being feared. I think it's the first time that we're feared as a soccer team and not as a counter-attacking soccer team. Before we were feared as a soccer attacking counter team. Now we look a bit more complete, and opponents are afraid of what will Montreal bring to the table this time. It's not, oh, we know how Montreal plays and it's okay. It's every time there's a switch, there's something, there's a tweak here, there's a tweak there. And I think that's all credit to Wilfried Nancy.
There's also just one thing that we need to keep in mind is like the way Montreal's, office footballing structure was run was pretty much a hot mess, right? Up until there we go.
You're saying the same thing as Matthew.
Okay,
right?
Matthew, yes. Okay, well, I like to say hot mess, but he evidently had a more eloquent way of putting it. So shout out.
He says under the structure, former coach will have done better in Montreal. You know what? Yeah. They didn't. So,
but Thierry Henry, is that like your comparison? Because
but what I'm saying is
proper structure. Until...
Whatever the structure, at the end of the day, it's results that are important. Nobody was able to bring results. So, I understand that it's very easy to find, a solution, like to find excuses.
Yes.
It's very easy, but at the end of the day, structure or not, Wilfried Nancy changed a lot of things.
I will agree with you. I will phrase it this way. I think Wilfried Nancy has had great success. I think this is the first time a coach was set up to have success.
I agree, but it's the first time that we have such a small budget too. We've always had a bigger budget. So, at one point it balances out, in my opinion.
Yeah, so. But you got to spend your money wisely.
That says a lot on how we spent that money back then.
And in fact, like the most money that Montreal spent on a player outside of a DP, well, I guess technically a DP, hasn't seen the pitch all year. So
let's move along with the next tweet. Patrick, and friend of the pod, of course, but I think it was very interesting what he said. MLS scouting network of CF Montreal must be one of the best in the league. Where would we be without Kyoto, Mihailovic, Miller, and Johnston? We're probably battling to not be the wooden spoon.
Yep.
We talked a lot about Vasily Kremenzidi's work, and of course Olivier Renard. But do you think would be as low as that, guys?
I mean, I don't think it'd be too pretty.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good. No.
Like, I don't know who would be in their places, so I guess it's a little hard to say because it's very hypothetical, obviously, but I don't think it would be working as well as it is.
No, I agree. I agree with Patrick and Yves. Yeah. No, it wouldn't be great.
Okay, next. Annette Yanta, secret striker, Alistair Johnston. I just thought it was funny.
That was a good finish.
Yeah. Very good finish for
amazing finish.
Defender.
No, man. He like even a striker couldn't have done better, right? Like
no. That's what I mean. It's even better coming from a defender.
Exactly. I think it was very smart. That goal was that shows how intelligent this player is, in my opinion. So let's move on to the last tweet, and it's from Mathias Van Haltz. It's in French, but I will translate right after. He says, everybody is talking about Lapalainen being able to move down the flank and being able to occupy the flank to himself alone. He says we need to remember that it's at our podcast, because they had a podcast called Coup Franc before with Eric Chenois and Quentin Parizis. And so it's at their podcast that Eric Chenois said that Lassi Lapalainen could be a good option as a left wing back. I just want to say, and I just want to give to Eric Chenois exactly what he's owed. He is the first one that proposed Lassi Lapalainen as a left wing back. I was very skeptical, but you know what? Great idea. It took a lot of time, but great idea. What do you guys think?
Yep. Well, congratulations. Does Eric happen to have the lottery numbers? Slide in my DMs if you do, Eric. Please and thank you. I will split the reward. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk about one of the comments that we got on the pod right now. It's from Chan. Says often FC coach will win coach of the year.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It will be between him and Nancy, in my opinion.
But we'll Austin, I think, has the attention of the league, which always gives you like a plus 10%.
And the fact that they're an expansion team too, and the league really likes to make a story around expansion teams. So
Yeah.
But it's no, nothing to hang your head if you're Wilfred Nancy to lose to
No, to be a finalist.
Josh Wolf. Yeah, so no.
It's nice just to be nominated.
Yeah,
as
for
they
sure.
say when they don't win the Oscar.
And the second comment, Patrick forgot Hurtado and Struna.
No, okay, I can actually counteract this one.
Please do.
Okay, so Hurtado was a free agent signing, so that was like a 0 loss for me. There was nothing to lose in signing him, and in fact, the fact that he wasn't able to realistically travel once Montreal returned to Canada, they were able to offload him, and it was basically, nothing lost, nothing gained, right? Struna, I think, was actually not bad business. Again, it didn't wind up working out particularly well at the end of the season. Yeah, he had a heck of a contract, which was unrealistic for a central defender any day of the week. But it got Maxi Urruti off of Montreal's books, which was wonderful. And as well, it wasn't a long-term attachment to the player. He did actually score 1 goal for Montreal against Nashville, which led them to tie the game. So he got Montreal 1 point. And he did play some games for Montreal and didn't, do a terrible job after the first couple of games of the season. And I think he did bring more to the squad than Maxi Urruti would have. So for me, I don't think Struna is was like a waste of a signing.
No, not at all. The problem with Struna was his salary, because I think, his performances were okay. He never made a fool of himself. I know he wasn't the greatest defender ever, but at the start of the year when Joel Waterman was struggling, he gave the time to Joel Waterman to sit on the bench a bit, revisit his game. Struna got the reps, and then Waterman came a changed player. So
he had a similar salary to what Maxi Urruti would have taken up with Montreal. So
yeah,
like it wasn't like Montreal was eating a whole bunch of money.
Yeah. No, but I understand what Matthew means, but there's some context too. Eh?
Yeah. I agree with all of you and with both of you. Sorry, but for me, Struna was a good signing. But again, salary for me is not a big problem because he did what he was asked to do, and then at one point he just played 1 year and then he went away. So not much of a loss in my opinion, but not much of a bad signing either. So good player, So that's it for me.
Guys, that's it for us. Just before we close it out, I just want to give a few shout outs. I want to shout out Nico Correa. He's Forge FC's media relation guy. Awesome dude, and he makes it so easy for us to have we had Bobby Smirniotis, we had Kit Saladopoulos, we've had Woobens Pacius. So it's all cool, man. He does an awesome job and really easy to communicate with him. I want to say thanks to him. I want to say thanks to our graphic designer who made our logo, designed by UJ on Twitter. So if you want to check her handle, it's designed by UJ. She's awesome. She has some really nice content and she specializes a lot on soccer. So that's pretty cool.
Instagram too, right?
Yeah, Instagram too, my bad. She has both. Last shout out Emile Archambault, who jumped on. I asked him to come on the, to do a quick interview about the refereeing stuff. He was ready like half an hour after all his stuff done, like his homework done. It was awesome to have him and a really nice guy. So shout out to all of these people. Thank you, Yves Paul. Thank you, Adi Raphael. It was cool to spend the night with you guys as usual. And thanks to everyone who listened and will be listening during the week if you missed the night. Until then, guys, I'll say have a great week, and we'll update you on our social media platforms. I'm not sure yet for next week when it is, but we'll have you covered for sure. It's going to be another episode of The Ball Is Wrong. Take care, everyone.